There's a tenderness in these notes, as if someone is soothing you or calming you down. The simplicity and happiness of the music seems to say that no matter what is happening around, everything will be fine. The melody moves seamlessly, carrying centuries of tradition, rhythm, and pure mountain bliss. This music comes from a stunningly picturesque Himalayan kingdom, Bhutan, often called the jewel of the eastern Himalayas. And this beautiful song is from the Tibetan folk music genre called Bodhra, one of the two main folk singing styles of Bhutan. This style was developed around 17th century. Hello. This is Shilpa and I welcome everyone to yet another fresh new episode of Ohh Folk, a folktale storytelling podcast where I bring to you lesser-known folktales from across the globe in my style of oral storytelling. Today, our destination is Bhutan, one of the most beautiful mountain kingdoms in the world. This is a small country high in the lap of the great Himalayan mountains, and it looks absolutely unreal in its beauty. The hills roll like soft green waves, rivers shine through the valleys, and colorful prayer flags move gently in the wind. Snowy peaks stand tall in the distance, and the whole place feels calm, quiet, and full of peace. It's a land where nature feels close and comforting, almost like a friend walking beside you. Bhutan, officially called the Kingdom of Bhutan, is a landlocked country in the southern part of Asia, in the eastern Himalayas, between China to the north and northwest and India to the south and southeast. In their official and national language, Songkha, Bhutan is referred as Drukyol, which translates as the land of the thunder dragon. Because its dramatic Himalayan valleys experience intense thunderstorms, which the people there believe are the roars of dragons, linking the natural phenomenon to powerful spiritual significance. The Druk, or thunder dragon, is central to the Bhutanese identity, appearing on the national flag, in art, and in the title of the king, who is referred as the Druk Gyalpo or the Dragon King. The name Drukyol comes from the Drukpa Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism, which has been the dominant spiritual lineage in Bhutan since the 12th century. The term Druk means dragon, and it originally refers to Druk Ralung Monastery in Tibet, where the Drukpa Kagyu school of Buddhism began. When the sect expanded into Bhutan, its followers were called Drukpas, and the country they settled in became known as Drukyol. Bhutan is a democratic constitutional monarchy with the king as the head of the state and a prime minister as the head of the government. The capital and the largest city is Thimphu, with close to 15% of the population living there. Interestingly, Bhutan is one country that has never been conquered or colonized. This mountain kingdom is considered one of the happiest countries in the world due to its unique gross national happiness or GNH philosophy, prioritizing holistic and collective well-being by focusing on culture, environment, good governance, and sustainable development. The current sovereign of Bhutan is His Majesty Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk, the fifth Drukgyalpo. He wears the Raven crown, the official crown worn by the kings of Bhutan, and is inspired by the national bird of the country, raven. King Jigme Khesar was the youngest reigning monarch in the world, being just 26 years old when he ascended the throne on 9 December 2006 after his father, His Majesty Jigme Singye Wangchuk, abdicated the throne in favor of his son. With the advent of democracy, obviously the role of monarchy and king has transformed. The current king serves as the unifying figure and the protector of Bhutanese traditions, culture, and religious values. He is widely loved and respected by the citizen of the country. Buddhism is the primary religion of Bhutan. It began spreading into Bhutan around the 7th century CE, about 1,300 years ago, mainly through Tibetan kings who sent monks, built temples, and encouraged the teachings to travel south into the Himalayan valleys. Tibet is currently part of China, but since these two regions share a border with Bhutan, a lot of their culture and traditions have similarities. A stronger, more organized wave of Buddhism came in the 8th century with Guru Padmasambhava, known in Bhutan as Guru Rinpoche, and sometimes even referred as the second Buddha. He visited Bhutan and firmly established the practices of Vajrayana Buddhism, which the country follows even today. Vajrayana Buddhism focuses on transformation through meditation, mantras, visualization, and special teachings passed from spiritual teachers called lamas to their students. Bhutan's folktales have thrived through Khaju, a Bhutanese term for oral transmission or storytelling. Khaju is a very important tradition, passing down moral values, beliefs, social customs, and of course, folktales and legends. Many of these folktales come from ordinary villagers, the common people, rather than the powerfuls of the society. Through these stories, simple and humble protagonists often become powerful voices. This grassroots origin makes the folktale a medium where a farmer or a carpenter can become a hero, and the influential ones are sometimes satirized or made fun of. This theme of turning the status quo upside down made folktales an alternative form of literature. This rich oral storytelling tradition of Bhutan has primarily thrived in small, isolated, remote mountain villages and valleys. Rugged terrains and nature's mystic charisma have given birth to this country's rich tapestry of myths and legends. In true sense, they are the careers of Bhutan's rich history and indigenous beliefs and cultural practices. They keep alive mountain myths and lores about deities, demons, and spirits. Origin of customs, certain festivals, rituals all come alive through these oral stories. No prize for guessing, Buddhism has also deeply impacted the folktales of this region. Monks introduced Bhutan with Jataka tales, stories of Buddha's previous lives. These very organically became part of oral lores. Pilgrims and traders also made their own contribution to the diversity of the Buddhist tales. They brought in stories from neighboring regions and countries like Tibet, Nepal, and India. Until well into the 20th century, Bhutan was mostly an oral society. Stories, lessons, and histories were passed from one mouth to another ear, while written texts remained mainly in monasteries, schools, and government offices. Because of that, Bhutan's rich oral tradition still remains almost intact. A typical evening in a Bhutanese home ended with everyone gathered around the fire. Kids sat close, waiting for that moment when an elderly began a story. In villages without electricity or TV, these storytelling nights were pure magic. These stories were not just entertainment, they were real-world classrooms too. This was how children learned about their culture, how to behave, and what values mattered. And listening together night after night created a sense of community too. Beside the stories, what has made the Bhutanese oral storytelling culture so special is the personal touch that different storytellers bring in their narration. Kunzang Chodon, the first female Bhutanese author to write in English, observes that when a story is told aloud, the narrator's own imagination, understanding, and embellishment enriches the story itself, bringing character to life in a way the written words may not. So whether it's a village grandma using a local dialect or a monk adding a timely proverb, Bhutanese folk tales have thrived on this oral artistry. Starting in the 1960s and 70s, Bhutan's push towards modernization, like building schools and roads, and later adopting television in 1999, led to a rapid transition from an oral to a multimedia and digital society. Traditional folk tales and oral storytelling sessions were slowly sunsetting. Scholars and educators grew concerned and started preservation efforts to revitalize Bhutan's folktale tradition in the modern era. In 1984, the first compilation of Bhutanese folktales by the respected Bhutanese scholar Dasho Sherab Thae was published in print. This was followed by 2 more volumes in 1986, thus marking the debut of written Bhutanese folktales. In 1994, Ashi Kunzang Chodon published Folktales of Bhutan, a collection of 38 tales and legends she has heard while growing up. It was the first time a Bhutanese writer recorded the oral traditions in English, bringing these stories to a global audience. More such restoration and meaningful modern adaptation efforts are ongoing. Now that we have explored how Bhutanese folktales were born, passed down, and shaped by the land and beliefs of the people, let's step into one of these stories. Today's story comes from the highlands of Wangdu, where the wind still seems to whisper the name of a demoness who once haunted the hills. This is one such tale that has been shaped not by kings or monks, but by villagers, travelers, and people who lived close to the land. The Demoness of Teligang reflects this tradition, blending everyday life with the spirit world that Bhutanese people have long believed surrounds them. At its center is Garp Lungi Khorlo, a legendary messenger. He was no warrior, just a mailman crossing mountain trails. Yet, His courage in the face of a terrifying demoness turned him into a folk hero. Today, a life-sized statue of him stands in the Royal Heritage Museum in Thimphu, a reminder that this haunting encounter is more than just a ghost story. It's actually a piece of Bhutan's living memory. If you travel into the heart of central Bhutan through the old mountain paths between Trongsa and Bumthang, you will hear whispers about the presence of a dangerous evil spirit. A ruthless demoness whom the locals once feared deeply. They called her Teligang Dwem, meaning the Demoness of Teligang. She is also known as Nyala Dwem or the Demoness of Nyala for being a restless spirit to roam in the thick Nyalalam forest near Chandebji in Trongsa. For generations, local people and travelers believed that she ruled those lonely mountain roads, preying on anyone who passed them after sunset. That's why, once the sun dipped behind the ridges, no one wanted to be out there. According to the oral tales of the area, this Nyala or Teligang demoness was a shapeshifter too. She could become whoever she wanted and used these disguises to distract innocent people off the trail and steal their life force. And those who fell for her trap would simply disappear or even be found dead under mysterious conditions. Back in the days, Trongsa used to be the home to three remarkable brothers, Gepang Norbu, Garp Lungi Khorlo, and Getsel Rigpa. People admired all three of them for their strength and courage, but Garp Khorlo particularly stood out among all three. Those were the days of handwritten letters and physically sent mails. Garp was known as the fastest courier in the land. He was so fast on foot that folks said the wind itself chased him, and his name roughly meant the wheel of the wind. They worked under the Trongsa Penlop. Penlop means governor, and the governor's name was Zidhar. So they basically worked under Trongsa Governor Zidhar. At first, he praised the brothers, but soon their growing reputation started to bother him. The Penlop decided to test them. He began to set up challenges that no ordinary human could survive. And Garp received the harshest assignment. He was told to run from Trongsa to Punakha and return the same day. The journey that usually took several days on foot for any regular person. But Garp completed the impossible task successfully not just once, but twice. Each time, he reached Punakha, turned around and made it back to Trongsa before night. That way, he didn't have to stay or travel through the dreaded trails during the scariest time. But in spite of this unbelievably impressive feat, all he got from the governor was just a few polite words, and that's it. In fact, Governor Zidhar asked him to repeat the same task for the third time. And this time, he knew he would be risking his life again for nothing. What he didn't know was far worse. Zidhar was actually betting on Garp's life. He knew exactly where the dreaded demoness lived along the route, and he wished in his heart that this final run would be the one in which Garp would lose his life to the demoness. On his way west, Garp stepped into the fog-drenched stretch of forest where people whispered that the demoness lived. He was exhausted, angry, and carrying the weight of a challenge he knew was meant to break him. And in that raw moment, he did something reckless. He yelled into the trees, daring the demoness to show itself. Nyala Dwem, people tell tales of your evil, But you have not been able to lower my spirit as of now. If you truly exist, come out and prey on me. Show me your power." His voice bounced through the tall pines and then faded. He kept going towards Punakha, unaware that his words had actually already reached the ears that probably shouldn't have reached. Hours later, Garp began his return journey. The day was slipping into a grey, uneasy dusk, and the forest seemed thicker, heavier. The demoness didn't forget his taunt. She has been waiting, watching, studying the tired slump of his body and the clouds setting over his mind. He was worn down, a perfect moment for the demoness to strike. They say she worked a quiet spell first, draining out the victim's la, or the vital life force that keeps a person anchored and alert, leaving them frail without realizing it. Then Teligang Dwem shifted into one of her disguises. By the time Garp reached a high meadow, he noticed a young nomad girl sitting near a spring. She wore a black yak-wooled female robe called Kira and a wide-brimmed bamboo hat, the kind anyone traveling those hills might wear. A wooden tongue or milk jug sat right beside her. Garp, who was thirsty and very tired, was relieved to see another human being. It looked like a blessing. He sat down to rest and asked for a drink. The girl passed the jug without saying a single word. The water was refreshing at first, but then a strange metallic taste hit his tongue. And immediately in that instant, although too late by then, Garp realized the truth. The demoness had tricked him into drinking his own brain in liquid form. But still, doubtful of what he had actually consumed, Garp thanked the young girl and continued down the trail. But the deeper he walked into the woods, the stranger everything began to feel. The air grew thick. The silence felt too deliberate, and then he saw something that made his stomach drop. Standing ahead of him, right beside a stream, was the same girl he had just left behind in the meadows. This time, a man was with her, bent over the water, dressed in a coarse, yak-haired men's coat called ko. When he turned, Garp saw that the man's face was white on one side and black on the other, as if light and shadow had carved him apart. Garp gathered his courage and walked closer and asked what they were doing. The girl and the man looked up, smiled faintly, and calmly responded that they were washing the internal organs of an ox. At that moment, something inside Garp shook up. He remembered that his birth sign of his lunar zodiac was ox too. He suddenly realized that the blood-red coiled intestines floating in the water weren't actually of a real ox's, rather they were his. It was surreal what he was experiencing, but it was real. Everything was basically a well-crafted trickery played by the demoness. She has claimed his soul by now. And then, within a blink, the two figures vanished in the air. Garp felt his energy collapse inside him. Back in the fortress in Trongsazong, his family and other people had been eagerly waiting for his return. His brothers had already finished their own assignments and were growing more worried by every passing minute. Then, just as darkness dropped, a lone, weary figure walked in an unstable manner through the gates. It was Garp, but not the Garp they knew. It was clear that his La, or life spirit, his sense of self, wasn't with him anymore. Garp's brothers ran to catch him. In broken words, Garp tried to describe what had happened to him in the forest. The girl, the jug, the visions, and the ox entrails floating in the water. His brothers listened, horrified, unable to believe their ears. No amount of healing, chanting, or care could bring him back. After a few days' battle, Garp Korlo, the fastest runner in Bhutan, passed away. Governor Zidhar's hidden wish was also fulfilled. After Garp's death, the governor made the life of his brothers even more miserable. As per some stories, the governor later demanded that Gepang Norbu and Getsel Rigpa put on a show of strength for the crowd, an arm wrestling match staged purely for his own entertainment. The brothers had no interest in competing, but refusing the penlope wasn't an option. So they stepped forward, gripped hands, and pushed against one another. As the struggle intensified, Gepang Norbu used all the force he had and swung his brother so hard that Rigpa flew across the bridge. But Rigpa, instinctively still holding on, pulled Norbu's arm straight out of his body as he fell. On one bank of the river lay Getsel Rigpa, significantly wounded. On the other stood Gepang Norbu, shouting in triumph until Rigpa, with his last breath, called back, "You have won, brother, but look at your arm." Only then Norbu realized what had happened with him and got very scared. He had lost his brother and now lost his own limb at the same time. With no family left, no purpose, and no honor, Gepang Norbu slowly breathed his last two, bringing the saga of the three heroic brothers to its final closure. On the other hand, the Demoness of Teligang or Nyala didn't just roam freely in the woods after this massive incident. A few years later, in the 17th century, a Buddhist monk named Drapthab Drazida was passing through those same shadowed woods one day. But he wasn't just a monk. He was a practitioner of powerful rites, someone who could see through illusions. The moment he entered the forest, Nyala Dwem attacked him. She threw every trick she knew at him, but couldn't contain the monk. At one point, she grew into this massive serpent that wrapped itself around the mountain before slipping into a small temple nearby to save herself from the saint's powers. The powerful monk confronted her inside the temple, which in today's time is known as Nyala Lakhang, a historically significant Buddhist temple in Bhutan. With Purba, a sacred ritual dagger empowered by sacred mantras, the monk pinned her spirit down and chanted until her evil strength shattered completely, thus ending the terror of the forest. Furthermore, under the force of the monk's command, the demoness had to take an oath that from that day onward, she would protect the very land she once preyed upon. So now she became a protective local deity. But as Drazida prepared to banish her, the demoness begged him to spare her unborn child. She confessed she was carrying a son, and the saint allowed the child to be born, took him into his own monastery, and named him Norla Beza Drukie. Over time, he grew into a revered guardian spirit of the region and a respected local deity. Even today, the villagers pay homage to Norla Peza, and the Purba that Drazida used to tame the demoness is still kept at Nyala Lakhang as a sacred relic. For a very long time, the saga of Garp Lungi Korlo and the Demoness of Teligang lived only in people's voices. Grandparents would gather their grandkids and affectionately narrate this story, maybe late into the night. But with time, this folklore started fading away. Elders of the locality lament. They sadly state that due to a lack of both storytellers and listeners, tales like these are slowly slipping away. In the last few years, though, there's been a quiet push to save this particular piece of Bhutan's cultural soul. Researchers, along with monks from Nyala Ugyen Monastery, have started gathering the remaining strands of the legend, different retellings, variations, memories, and shaping them into a written record. And that's what makes this folktale very, very special. That's a wrap for this episode. I truly hope you're enjoying Ohh Folk as much as I enjoy diving into these new cultures, unearthing these incredible stories, and bringing them to you. You can find Ohh Folk on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Just search the name and you'll find me. And hey, don't forget, you can listen to Ohh Folk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually tune in. If you have been enjoying the ride, please spread the word. Share it with friends, family, co-workers, that neighbor who always has a story to tell. Anyone who loves a good tale. Take care, stay curious, and come back next time for another story-rich, culture-packed episode of Ohh Folk. Until then, here's wishing you all out there a fun, happy, and festive last few days of 2025. Wishing all the very best for the new year. May there be no war, no sufferings, no sorrows, and no tears in the new year. And may it bring only and only unlimited joy, good health, and nothing but good vibes for everyone. Take care and goodbye.